All right.
I'll start with the easy ones. Where were you born?
I was born here in the city of New Bedford.
Yeah, cool. When was that?
I was born in 1955.
Nice. Do you have any siblings?
No, but I grew up in an extended family household where I lived with my cousins who were very much like my sisters and brothers.
Oh, really?
Right, so my whole family lived together in the same two-story apartment house that my grandparents owned. So I lived with my grandparents and my two aunts and my uncle and their kids,
Wow.
all in the same household. Right?
That's great.
And I grew up in the south end of New Bedford. Right? In fact, I actually bought the home that I was born in. I bought it from my family after my grandparents passed away. So I still live in that house, and the house was built in 1880, prior to my experience there. It has been in the family since the 1930s.
Keeping it going?
And keeping it going, that's it.
Do you have like your own studio in your house?
Yes, I renovated my grandfather's bedroom into a recording studio. And my grandmother for years had an untouchable parlor for her tea party friends, right? Which I converted into my new bedroom. And they're probably rolling in their grave. But I converted the back bedroom into an entire studio for me to work out of back in the 1980s. And I've had the studio since 1985.
What's your nationality?
I'm Cape Verdean descent, but I'm third generation American. My great-great-grandparents were from the island of Brava, which is part of the Cape Verde Isles, which is 60 miles off the coast of Ghana, Africa. Okay. The Cape Verde Islands were the last stop-off point for the slavery days, where slaves were transported from the coast of South Africa, from West Africa, from Ghana, from Dakar, to the Cape Verde Islands, and then transported here to America to the south into chains. However, my relatives can date our history back here in America to the 1700s. In fact, my family donated several items to the Whaling Museum from relatives who were whalers in the day. So my family has always been free-born American black people. So we never were in chains. We came here of our own volition, and we were businessmen, whalers, and seamen in our earliest ancestry. So like many white people here, I can claim that ancestry back to 1740, which is unusual for somebody from the black community here. They may not have more than 2 family relationships back in their history that they can actually remember before reaching into chains. My family came here intact with our language, our music, and our culture, and our ancestral history, which many white Americans can also claim. Okay? But not many black Americans can claim. Cape Verde. There's a large group of people here in the community, and I think the only blacks in our area who can claim not to be part of slavery days are those that came here from the Caribbean islands in the 80s, 90s, in the past, 1900s, 1800s, and those who were part of the whaler trade. Originally. So, great ancestry background. In fact, one of the two pieces that we donated to the Whaling Museum, one was a bird cage made out of strictly whalebone, and the other is an actual cane that my great-grandfather turned into a huge piece of scrimshaw with all his trips from his whaling experience. My family is a mixture of cultures, because my great-great-grandfather was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Englishman, which is very unusual, which is the reason why I have the hair I have, and a different look from some blacks who are in the area, because my background is actually mongrel. Mixture, right? Okay. So I hope that answers that question.
If you go back in time to about my age, what questions would you ask yourself, and could you give advice to yourself?
So you mean and how old are you now?
19.
When I was 19 years old, my friend, I was already working professionally on the road playing gigs. And I had been for 3 years. So I was already a working professional by the time I reached your age for quite a while. So those questions that you were talking about had been answered at a much earlier age than yours.
Alright,
so let's say 14.
Yeah.
Okay. At 14 years old, 15, 16 years old, the question was, do I play the music of my relatives, or do I play the contemporary music that I want to play? And will I lose my position in the family by doing so? Let me explain. My relatives were all big band players from the 1930s and 40s who worked in New York City, and they were professional musicians since that time period. And they had a big band from 1935 almost to the present day. In fact, I am the new leader of that big band now. And I took over from my uncle this year, who passed away last year at 93 years old.
Good for him.
And so he lived a very long life. And he had 3 brothers who were all professional musicians who ran the band. And he was also the president of the musicians local in this area since the 1960s. So I grew up with music as a family business, not fun, business. And that meant that I was supposed to carry on the tradition of my relatives. My relatives played swing and jazz. But when I was your age, I wanted to play rhythm and blues and funk and soul. And my relatives hated that music. They considered it a disruption of their business. The end of the big band era was caused by R&B. So when I decided to play it, they were very extremely angry at me and said, you know, you'll never play with us again if you play that music. Right? And when I brought my first R&B records into the household, my uncle would break them. He'd literally break them. They were 45s, and he would just take them, put them on the table, and go bang. So we don't play that music in this house. You know, we don't play Little Richard, you know, in my house. We don't play B.B. King. We play sophisticated black music, not this shit. And that's what his statement was to me. My answer was, but it's fun, and it's my generation, I want to play it. So the first thing I did, at 17 years old, I quit the big band, I quit playing with my relatives, and I joined an R&B band that was a famous recording act. They were called the Drifters. And that was the first road gig I did away from my relatives. And I lasted with them for about 6 months. And then I went to Herb Reed and the Platters. And after that, I went to Little Anthony Imperials. And then I went to the Tune Weavers. And then I ended up with Dionne Warwick, which was more pleasing to my relatives because they considered her to be not R&B, but soul pop music, right? Eventually, after being on the road from the age of 16 and a half to 19, I was in high school, of course, while I was on the road. I missed 90 days of my senior year of school to go on the road with these bands. I still passed my high school diploma. And I attempted to get into college, right? You know, most students want to go to college, right? I got a full scholarship to go to Berkeley, College of Music. And I got scholarships from my high school and everybody. Well, I was on the road my senior year, and I called up my parents and said, Mom, I'm not going to college because I want to play music. And I'm already making money, and I'm already playing music, and I don't need to get an education, you know? Well, she reached across the phone and grabbed my fucking shoulder and said, I'm going to kill you when I see you. I said, you can't, because I'm in Florida. And I stayed on the road for another 2 years, and I didn't go back to school, to college, until I turned 20 years old. But I did it for a real reason, because I was already playing music for a living, and I was doing what I wanted to do.